Welcome into the debut episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. I am your host, Rob Wong. Thank you so much for checking out my new Blue Jays podcast. I know there's a ton of great Jays pods out there with people doing amazing things, so for you to take the time out to listen to this does mean a lot, whether you're commuting right now on your way to work, driving down the DVP, you're stuck in traffic, maybe you're taking the LRT, maybe you're even up in my hometown of Bradford, Ontario, riding a tractor right now, getting ready for the upcoming season. Shout out Canal Road. Canal Road is where it's at, of course, if you know anything about that area. I appreciate you checking this out. So subscribe, follow, rate, review, share, all of that good stuff. It helps out the algorithm and helps out this podcast. So there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to dive back into the podcast game. One, my radio history, working at Sportsnet 590 The Fan for many, many years, where I was a radio host, radio reporter, did Blue Jays talk for a little bit in 2021. There was that itch that I really wanted to scratch, getting back to my roots of radio, my roots of, podcasting in a way. So that definitely was a factor in why I wanted to do this. And the other one, of course, it's the 50th anniversary season for the Blue Jays. There's going to be so much celebrating the history of this franchise coming up in the next few months. And I thought, the excitement is at an all-time high. So why not get back into this and join in the conversation on the Blue Jays in a different platform than what I already do in my current day job at the Toronto Sun and Post Media, doing a lot of different Blue Jays videos with my colleague, the great Rob Longley. So yeah, this is just an option for me to be able to get my thoughts out there, because you can only do so much on Twitter, of course, 280 characters. If you follow me there at RobLong34, I'm always tweeting out memes or GIFs or, different stats about the Blue Jays. I like to have fun with it. So here's another opportunity for me to do the same. Speaking of Twitter accounts, you can check out the official Twitter account for this podcast at 3up3down or at 3_up_3_DWN. I know there's a ton of underscores in there, but turns out when you have pretty generic name like 3up, 3 down, it can be a challenge to get the proper Twitter account. So if you're the person out there that has 3 up, 3 down, maybe we need to have a conversation and work things out. Much like players do, working out situations where a guy wants a certain number and he buys a guy a Rolex to take it from him. I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far. Maybe we can work out with a cup of coffee or something to get a deal done. That would be nice, because it would just make things a lot easier tweeting out the name of the podcast as opposed to all these underscores. But nonetheless, if you can give it a follow there, that would be much appreciated. So what is everybody doing at this time of the year? It's bold predictions, whether it's on your pods or on YouTube videos, online articles. Everybody's trying to take their stab and saying some crazy things about what they think the Blue Jays are going to do this season. I dove into the archives recently to take a look at some of my boldest predictions from years past. And let's just say my track record is absolutely horrific. If we go back to, let's say, 2024, just as an example, I said Jimmy Garcia would save 15 games. That, of course, did not happen. I said in 2022 that Nate Pearson would make the All-Star team, which aged like absolute milk. That was a wretched take. One that I sort of want to take and say that I did win back in 2024. I said Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who everybody was so down on when he signed as a free agent that season. I said he would have a 100 WRC plus and hit double-digit home runs. Now, if you remember, of course, Kiner-Falefa was ultimately traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates at the deadline, so he did not spend the full season with the Blue Jays, but in 2024, he had, with the Jays, a 117 WRC plus and 7 home runs. So that's pretty darn close. I will not take the full win on that. Let's say it's half a win. I will accept that. But overall, my record of bold predictions has not been particularly good. But really, what are they about? It's about having fun. It's about, maybe having some egg on your face at the end of the season. But just know that if I nail any of these, I am going to be celebrating it to the highest degree. So these are my 3 bold predictions for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2026. Bold prediction number 1 for the 2026 Toronto Blue Jays. Dalton Varsho starts in the All-Star game for the American League. If you're not doing a Dalton Varsho bold prediction, are you even doing it correctly? I mean, this guy has been the talk of spring training for the Blue Jays, putting up just absolutely insane numbers, running a 240 WRC plus as of this recording. But the number that strikes me is that he struck out just 6% of the time. 3 strikeouts in 50 plate appearances as I record this, which is absolutely bonkers for a guy that struck out just over 28% a season ago. His career strikeout rate is just under 25%. I am not a smart enough baseball person to know whether he's doing something differently with his setup, with his hands, his stride, his load, all of that stuff. I do not know enough about those things, but it's clear something has changed. I think if you look even at the batted ball data, his launch angle has dropped to 10.8 degrees during the spring training, whereas last year it was up over 23 degrees. The year before it was 24 degrees. So he is doing something to try to not get under the ball as much. He's hitting way more line drives this spring. He's hitting a few more ground balls. He is not hitting as many fly balls, which isn't, necessarily a great thing, because a guy that has his type of power, you want him to be putting the ball in the air and getting those extra base hits. But something seems to have changed with the way Dalton Varsho is attacking the ball. And unfortunately, we do not have in spring training any of the attack angle type of data that we'll get during the regular season. But I think if you look at what he has done this spring, I know it's spring and you don't want to read into it, but it does seem like there have been some significant, tangible changes for Dalton Varsho. And you go back a year ago in the shortened season he had, where he played just 71 games, he had 20 home runs in those 71 games. And of course, it's easy to just extrapolate that and be, well, if he played, a full season of baseball, he'd have over, 40 home runs. It does not work that way. But I think, for me, it's pretty clear that if these changes do hold, he's got a chance to have a monster season, because you look at what he can do in the outfield as one of the premier defenders in center field, and you add in a guy who's got this type of extra base pop, who can steal the occasional base. He's got a chance to really make some noise in the American League. I was, really debating back and forth, what kind of bold prediction do I want to make with Dalton Varsho? And I thought, you know what? He's got a chance here to have some real recognition as we get into the summer, if he can put together the type of season that I think he can. And with that, we know the Blue Jays fan base across Canada. We've seen it in years past with guys like Jose Bautista, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The fans will vote as much as they can to try to get their guys into the All-Star game. And if Dalton Varsho, who is beloved as much as any other Blue Jay on this team, if he can have the type of season that it looks like he is primed to be having, I think there's a chance that we're going to be seeing him in the All-Star game, not only as a reserve, but potentially as a starter. Bold prediction number 2. Gage Stanifer pitches for the Blue Jays in 2026. You look at Stanifer right now, and he is one of the top prospects in the Blue Jays system. He's coming off that really strong performance in the spring breakout game, and when you look at the stuff, it's hard not to think he could be getting out major league hitters sooner rather than later. The fastball is topping out in the upper 90s. He's got a wipeout slider. He's got a changeup to boot. This is a guy that's going to be striking out people for a very, very long time. In the minor leagues last year, 110 innings, struck out 35.5% of the batters he faced, albeit it was mostly in high A with a little bit of taste of double A. But you look at Trey Savage a year ago, and it's not apples to apples comparison, of course. Savage was a guy that was just drafted the year before and just kept succeeding at every single level. But as we have seen with the Blue Jays, they are not afraid to give a guy a major push if they feel like he is ready for the next level. We saw it with Savage last year. We've seen it previously with a guy like Alek Manoah, and maybe Stanifer is that next guy. So when I say he's going to pitch for the Blue Jays in 2026, I don't necessarily mean it as a starter either. I think there's potential for him to come up and be a late season bullpen addition. We have seen it with other franchises where guys have come up and done a similar job pitching out of the pen late in the year to great success. So Gage Stanifer for me is a guy that I have an eye on, of course, moving forward, heading into 2027 and beyond. But I feel confident in my bold prediction that Gage Stanifer will be a Blue Jay in 2026. Bold prediction number 3. The Blue Jays trade for Sandy Alcantara. All right, hear me out. The Blue Jays seemingly have too many starting pitchers right now, even if you include the guys that are dealing with injuries right now, and Jose Barrios, Trey Savage, and Shane Bieber working his way back from a slow offseason. But as we see year to year, teams just churn through starting pitching. The Blue Jays have been pretty lucky over the last decade where they haven't had a ton of injuries to their starters, but even last year, they had to give 15 starts to Eric Lauer because Bowden Francis got hurt. Easton Lucas made 5 starts. Jose Urena made a pair of starts, and even Spencer Turnbull, throwing 87 miles an hour, got a start for the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays. So that's why I'm looking at Alcantara as a really interesting trade target for the 2026 Jays. We know the Blue Jays have a type. When they look at starting pitching, they love guys that are durable. And outside of 2024, when he missed the full season due to Tommy John, Alcantara has been one of the most durable pitchers in all of baseball. In 2021, 205 innings pitched. 2022, 228 innings pitched. 2023, 184. And last year, coming off the surgery, had 174 innings pitch. So this is a guy that can be a workhorse, can be one of the more dominant pitchers in all of Major League Baseball when he is at his best. Hasn't been great this spring, 5.63 ERA, but when you look under the hood, the numbers as far as the ERA predictors are a lot stronger. 3.5 FIP, 2.83 xFIP, and he's actually striking out a decent amount of batters so far this spring, 30%, which is up from his career norm of 21%. The other thing that the Blue Jays have loved in years past when they trade for guys is guys that have a little bit of control. We saw it, of course, when they dealt for Jose Barrios from the Twins a couple of years ago. So when you look at Alcantara, he's under contract this year for $17.3 million, but next year he's got a club option for $21 million. And if he is pitching up to his capability, that is an absolute steal. Going into next year, we know that Kevin Gausman's going to be a free agent. Max Scherzer's going to be a free agent. Shane Bieber's a free agent next year. And who knows what's going to happen even in this season with Jose Barrios. So right now, you're looking at a 2027 rotation with Cody Ponce, Trey Savage, and Dylan Cease, which is great. But to have another guy who you can rely on like a Sandy Alcantara would be a huge thing for this Blue Jays team. So there you have it, my 3 bold predictions for the 2026 Toronto Blue Jays. Let me know what yours are over on Twitter at RobWong34, at 3_up_3_DWN. Again, subscribe, follow, rate, review, and share the pod. The support means an absolute ton. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Rob Wong. I'll talk to you again on Thursday as we get set for the season opener.